Good evening, folks. How y'all doing? Looks like there's folks here. I always wonder when that happens if you get the notification. It is another Monday. It's another week, and the Chiefs have been making some things go on. Hearing a lot of rumors about the draft. We are going to focus on that tonight. Hope you guys are all doing well. I want to say hello to everybody that's been following the Locked On Chiefs podcast as well as this channel. Thank you for all of your time. I really appreciate it. This is the fun part of the season for me. Getting into the draft is kind of the thing that I do. I'm working my butt off on trying to get the Athletic Matrix draft guide ready for you guys. Gotten a lot farther over this weekend. Got a lot of work done. So I just want to say, if you're interested in that, check it out. I'll have links in the show notes, but rogueapc.com is where you can get my draft guide. Been doing it a couple of years, and it's been up there. You can check it out. $1 for last year's if you want to take a look at it. Hi, Isaiah. How are you? Hi, everyone that's in the chat room. I see a ton of you, and we'll get started here. First and foremost, tonight's beer, Luna from Ecliptic in Oregon. It's a nice Kolsch, easy drinking. I've had enough of my Irish Red. I drank quite a bit of it, so we're in good shape. So I see a lot of questions about what these Chiefs are going to do. And make sure, if you guys want, ping me, hit the double question marks if you have a question. Super chat is open. If you want to donate to the channel, you can do it through there. I know Melvin asked about it last week, and that's really the only way that I have right now. So feel free if you like. And a lot of questions about Tyreek Hill and what that does for the wide receivers. I think it does make him more important, but let's not jump to any conclusions. We still haven't heard a thing about what's really going on with Ty Hill, so I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll talk about receivers in general. I don't know that it's a super high priority, but looks like we're starting to get some questions, so we'll just start talking. First and foremost, Kel Dwan, how are you? What do you think about Trey Boston? Do you think he's coming to KC? You know, he had an interesting little thing there on Twitter that I saw. I don't know if I saw the whole thing or not, but I started talking about Trey last offseason because he does the thing that I think the Chiefs still need in being a free safety. And I'm going to adjust this light, you guys. Sorry about that. And the free safety is the one thing that they don't really have on the roster right now. I mean, you can hope that Armani Watts can play free. I think that he's got some of that in him. He certainly made a couple of plays at Texas A&M that make you think that he could. You just don't know. I mean, 5 games experience. He was just starting to get going, Armani was, when he got hurt. So I just don't know that you can rely on it is the big thing. So I think they still could add somebody like Trey Boston. And even beyond that, you have Lucas. I think Murray's run his course. I like Eric Murray. I just don't think that he gelled with that staff, and he may have run out of time. I don't know. Trey Boston doesn't tackle that well. He's getting a little bit older, but he still plays that deep corridor well. He can cover, and he's got the experience to recognize. And I think that's a big deal. So I don't know if he's coming, Kel, but I think it's a good idea for them to at least kick the tires, see if he fits into both the team and the scheme, and get a better idea about whether that'll work or not. Moving on. So Isaiah, who's the current candidate for drafting? It is up in the air, and I'm hearing a lot of rumors about them changing their priorities a little bit back towards the offense, but not at wide receiver. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Who's next? Off topic, are there remaining free agents for the Chiefs to sign? There's a few. They could upgrade here or there, but I don't really think that it's going to be real hot and heavy now. If they want to make a splash, they got to pretty much do a trade. And Chris and Seth talked about that on the Monday podcast. And I think they're on the right track. It's just there's not that much impact out there in free agency. And quite honestly, the positions of need that the Chiefs have, particularly at corner, the pickings are slim in this draft class. So I think that's kind of the way that you have to look. Will they do it? I don't know. I think Brett Veach really likes his draft pick, so I'm not sure that that's really in the possibility of happening, but you never know. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Why don't we trade both second-round picks for Pat Peterson? I'm fine with that. I'd even give up a one for him. I mean, he's older, so you're not going to get the longevity out of it. But Pat Peterson changes this defense, like in a dramatic way. He allows you to basically shut down half of the field. Maybe not, shut it down completely, but enough that you don't have to concentrate on it. And I think that's what's really important for Spags to be able to say, okay, we're going to let him take that, especially if you had a free safety that you could leave by himself. Now you've got, 2/3 of the deep field covered. And that lets him do a lot of things in terms of exotic pressures, maybe some zone blitz. I feel like the way that this is going, there might be more zone played next year than we've seen in years past with the Sutton regime. I think it depends on what the players that they can get, but I think it's definitely a possibility. Okay, who's next? Ian, looks like your message fell off. Sorry about that. Okay, Colby Chastain. What will our linebacker position look like? Who will play what position, like Will or Sam? What they've said to this point is that they're planning on playing Hitch at Will, Rags at middle, and the new guy, Damian Wilson, out there at Sam. That's what he played in Dallas. And Hitch played some middle and some Will in Dallas. I like Reggie, and Reggie can play downhill well. I think he's got to get a little bit stronger. I still feel like he hasn't hit the potential that I see in Reggie Ragland. And I was a big Ragland fan coming out. So I'm still waiting for him to hit that stride. And maybe it's the change in scenery and the particular coaching staff. I felt like both Hitchens and Ragland were coached to hesitate or to fill gaps and settle down in them. You saw them take a real hesitant kind of get to the gap and sit down rather than attacking through it and chancing a cutback. So I feel like some of what we've seen that has maybe been negative for Hitchens and Ragland has been coached into them. So we'll see if they can get out of that. Man, you guys are doing great with the questions. I'm going to stop the scrolling here so I don't lose them. I do think also that Dorian O'Daniel can play the Will, and I think that's worth doing. We'll see who can switch around, but you still have Neiman, and I think that's important too. I think he can play probably middle or Sam, so he gives you some options. That is a good way to go. Next question. Jalen Ferguson was in for a visit today. Man, he is a straight ahead pass rusher. He's gotten all kinds of hype about how terribly he is moving laterally, and that's absolutely true. That's if you're going to pick one thing to measure a guy on athletically, to be a good pass rusher, it's a 3-cone drill, and his is abysmal, worse than offensive linemen, just ridiculously bad. But at the same time, he's a power guy. If you move him inside and he plays a 5 technique in a base maybe, or you're just letting him rush from the inside, he can play forward. And, a late day 3 pick, I'm fine with that. He was getting some like second and even first round hype, and that's not going to happen. He does not deserve that kind of pick. So I don't think the Chiefs are going to be in it, but you got to kick the tires. And if he's still there in the 5th round, why not? So good point about him. Do you think we'll trade for a veteran pass rusher? I don't think so, Dallas. I just don't think it's in the cards because of how much they're going to have to give up. And there's not that many out there. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence is going to get paid, and maybe he's worth trading for in this scheme. But I don't know that they want to saddle themselves with another guy that puts them right back into the situation that they were in with both Dee Ford and Justin Houston. And quite honestly, Lawrence is getting up there in age too. I mean, I'd say he's at the peak of his career now. Maybe he's got one more year to his peak, and then he starts getting older to the point where he's going to start fading off. So I don't know that you want to make that investment right now either. Yeah. Watts needs to show that he can handle the role. Yes, you're absolutely right, Jersey. Isaiah Caddy, RGR, is there a possibility that we trade for Sweat or Greedy? If we trade for them, what will it cost? You can move up maybe 10, maybe 12 by swapping first and adding a third, generally. It just depends on how stingy somebody wants to be this particular draft season. If you want to get up to like 15 or 10, it's probably going to be one of those seconds along with swapping firsts. And if it's the right guy, then I'm okay with it. Sweat's a little bit light. I don't know if you want to do that and give up that much for him. I think there's going to be, I think there's Bosa, and then I think everything kind of drops off after that, Sweat being one of them. Josh Allen, I'm a lot lower on than a lot of folks because he doesn't play the run very well. He doesn't rush inside very well. He's got some counters, but, I think a lot of guys other than Bosa might go a little bit lower than people think. I don't think it's low enough to get the Chiefs into it, but it could be. Is Travion going to be a cornerback? Travion Smith is a cornerback. He's just not developing very quickly. So I think he's still got some some ways to go, and I think he can probably get there. I just don't think you can rely on him to be a starter or a top 4. I mean, you got to have 4 strong corners in this league at this point, so I just don't think he fits that mold. Is there a possibility? No, that was the same question. Thank you, Isaiah. Bruce Sederberg. Seth said was watching Hakeem Butler film and liked him. What do you think if he's on the board in the 3rd or the 4th? Easily. I don't know that I like him as a top 15 pick, like a lot of folks seem to think. I think he's a day 2 guy for sure, maybe a day 1 at the bottom there where the Chiefs are going. He doesn't have a whole lot of lateral agility from what I've seen on film. He runs the posts, he runs the goes, he'll hit a comeback. He's got some ins, but he rounds his digs and stuff off a lot, more so than I would like. But he's a beast. He's more of I think you got to rely on his body type to help him in the league. I don't know that he's seen the competition in the Big 12 that you really got to hold on to. So, yeah, I think he's probably a top 75 pick. I mean, honestly, he's a top 60 pick. I just don't know if you want to spend a top 30 on Hakeem Butler. But like I said, I've only watched a couple of games so far. I think he could be in there in second. I think that's a good value for him. Definitely in the 3rd or 4th, sure. Travian. Justin Hatcher, I donate, but I don't know how. Well, thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. There's a little button down at the bottom of the chat next to the emoji icon. There's a $sign in a box. You can click on that, ask a question, and you can donate to the channel. Make sure you put a question in there, and I'll definitely answer it. It helps me find it, actually. It's really quite bright on mine. Okay, let's see. Demetrius, trade for Ramsey. I don't think the Jags want to give him up. I could see the Chiefs doing it. I think if you feel he can fit into the locker room, especially with Matthew kind of the go-to guy at this point, he and Chris Jones, but Matthew more so because he plays in the secondary. I think if you feel strong about that, I think you could do it because Ramsey's got a big personality and kind of a big mouth. He's called his teammates out a bit. He's called the organization out a bit. It might be a little too much headache for the Chiefs. I don't know. But he is a good player. The value you would have to give up to get him, I think, is probably steep. And like I said, I think Brett Veach likes his draft picks more than he likes a guy that he's not 100% sold on. Eric Murray. Okay, Adam Daughtry, I already answered your question about Smith. Yep, thank you. Ian. Eric Murray was a CB in college. Should the Chiefs consider moving him back? I think Eric's been kind of exposed as he doesn't have the speed to play especially slot corner, which is where he played at Minnesota a lot. I don't think he has the speed to do that here in the league. So I don't think a move back to CB is really in his future. He could be a more coverage safety, like not in the box, but tighter to the line of scrimmage, a guy that could maybe do a little bit of both. And certainly if they have big slots, if a team's running out, Jason Avant in the slot, then yeah, I think he is capable of that. But, the Edelmans, the Beasleys, that's not something Eric can do. Gary Holland, what's up, man? If there was no edge, this is from Carliners. Okay, cool. If there is no edge rusher, safety, or CB1 available in the draft at number 1, meaning 29. Do they try to trade down, try to trade for Peterson, Clowney, or Lawrence? They definitely try to trade down. I don't think you're going to get a veteran trade on draft night. That might be a little far-fetched. You got to set that kind of stuff up. Most of those guys are going to want a new contract eventually, especially Clowney and Lawrence. So I don't see that happening. It depends where their board falls. I have a couple of guys that at corner that are going to be late in the first round for me. And if I'm right, then that would work for the Chiefs. There's a number of edges. One in particular that I think might be available late. I just don't know if he lasts all the way to 29. So yeah, I think those are the big 3 things. If you can't get that, then you trade back. And I think a trade up is almost as likely. If they have somebody they think can fit and start in day 1, I think Brett Veach will go after him and get him. How do you feel about Alex Okafor, and what does he bring to amp up the defense? Isaiah, I did a whole video on him last week and did a film review and everything. He's a good base end. He's not flashy. He's not super fast, but he plays with some good power. He's athletic overall. He can even play some coverage, and there's a good clip of that in last week's video. So I think he's a solid addition. And the big question for me is, how do they augment him? He can play first and second down. If you feel he can play well enough and you don't get another edge rusher, that's a question mark for me. And I don't know if they want to stay power or if they want to supplement him with some speed rush. It's going to be really interesting to see how they build this defense situationally to play against, especially long downs against the pass. That's really what I'm waiting to see how their philosophy materializes this year. Yeah, I do that a lot. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Ivory Bridgewater. Yeah, Hakeem Butler in round 2. I'm down. I have no problem with that. I just don't know if he'll last to the 60s. You feel like, oh, I answered that one. Okay, cool. Rev Dog, how are you, bud? Gary Holland, would you give Arizona our 2 number 2 picks for Pat Peterson? I'm okay with that because they're both extras. You can give 2 number 2 picks and still have a second round pick in both drafts. I have no problem with that. You're basically giving away the Peters. It's an even trade, plus you're given a second. And I think Patrick Peterson is that much better than Marcus Peters was to begin with. So I have no problem with that. I don't think that's going to get it done. If they're willing to move him at all, I think they're going to want to 1. I think they're going to hold out for that. It might get better as they get closer. It depends what they want to do with Rosen. If they start to get some action for Rosen, they can get a trade there and they can get some picks there. They might be more willing to give up Peterson for less. We'll just have to see how that comes down. That might get real close to the draft. That was a good question, though, Gary. I like it. Mississippi Grind, do you think the defense can get us to a Super Bowl? Not yet. I got to see what they get in the draft and if they do anything else in terms of a trade. Right now, I think they're about even, maybe a little bit behind where they were last year, just in terms of the guys they've had to let go and the guys that they've brought in. But if they can get impact players on the defense in the draft, or they trade for an impact player. And that's the problem with this draft class. There's a couple of impact guys at each position, but this draft is strong in its depth, but not in its elite talent. And that's the problem. There's only 2 elite corners. Honestly, there's only 1 elite corner and 1 guy that's kind of a maybe. There's 1 elite edge, in my opinion. And then there's a bunch of guys that could be. That's the big question. So getting value, that's going to be the tough part. But you got to get guys that can come in the SPAG system and make an impact day 1 with your first, maybe your second pick in this draft. That's a good question, though, and now it's got me thinking about other things. Sorry. Okay, Michael Whaley, every mock draft says Zach Allen's going to go in the first round. I don't think so. I think Zach Allen's challenged athletically. I think he's solid, but I think he's another guy that's not explosive enough to play consistently in the league and get home. But he'll be a grinder, and I know he's got a good work ethic. So I think in the second, probably that's where he'll go, and I think it's a decent value at that point. Okay. Kenny Slavens, how are you? Do you think we still have a good shot for the Super Bowl after all the cuts and the lack of free agency approach? It all ends up on Pat. I mean, if the defense can just get to a middle tier, 15 to 20th overall, and be able to stop on third down, they would have gone to the Super Bowl last year. And I think as long as we don't know about Ty Hill, but if he's there and they can augment and get a third receiver, and I think that's an important thing for this draft as well. If they can do that and he still has the weapons and Kelsey and Watkins, that's why you need the number 3, because I'm guessing Watkins is going to get hurt again. He seems to be just fragile. He's good when he's in, but he's not always in. So if they can do all that, I think the offense is going to pick up where it left off. And if the defense can be solid in a middle tier, I think they can get to the Super Bowl and maybe even win it. Okay. That was Michael's Fortnite. Okay. I don't know what you mean, but okay. Josh Murdoch, what do you think of the wide receivers or center? And would you like us to grab at 29? That's a really interesting one, because that's the rumor that I'm hearing the most, is that the Chiefs are starting to look at getting a center in the first round. They paid Reeder to be the backup. I don't think they paid him enough money to make it look like they meant for him to be the starter with Mitch Morse departing. And that's the thing. If you guys missed it, Mitch Morse is with the Buffalo Bills now. So I think he's their fallback, much like Okafor. If they can get an impact, edge rusher, then Okafor's a great backup. Same thing with Reeder. He can be a starter if you have to. But I think maybe they'll be looking at, and the guys that they're going to look at are going to be Bradbury. He's pretty much the perfect fit in terms of his athleticism. He's just a shade under, and I've done the O-line metrics for the draft matrix for Rogue Analytics. That'll be out here in a little bit, a couple of weeks, and I'll have the draft guide ready. And he looks a lot like the athleticism profile of Mitch Morse. And I think he can slide in there and do a good job. There are some other guys that could move in there, like Jonah Williams, like McCoy out of Texas A&M, guys that can do the job, but they don't necessarily look like what the Chiefs like in their zone athleticism type linemen. So if Bradbury's there, I think they might take a hard look at doing that at 29, but that's if they're there at 29 anyway. I expect them to kind of go up after somebody. That's what I'm expecting. Like, I'm going to be paying attention. Anything after the 10th pick, I'm going to be paying hard attention to see if the Chiefs jump in there. Good question, though. Young Roland, KC going to the Super Bowl after we upgraded or letting our best players go. It's going to be tough, but it can be done. You can make the defense better overall, even with losing that kind of elite talent. Next, Carlos, is drafting a wide receiver in the second sound reasonable with the Hill situation? Yeah, I think it does. I was thinking third when it had to be the third wide receiver. If anything goes wrong with Hill, or if any of these rumors are true that they're thinking about trading him or they're thinking about not extending him isn't a big deal. But between the legal stuff and the possible trade rumor, if any of that happens, then you got to get a replacement for him. That's the problem. He's the best receiver physically in this league, and you can't replace him. So you got to try and make, again, more as a whole than out of the one player. I like the question, though. That was good. Fortnite, I've already talked about Hill a couple of times. I don't know anything more than you do. There's been no news this week. So when we know something, I'll talk about it. Okay, Nathan Altick. Could Ragland play the Sam backer? I don't like Hitchens as a Will backer. I think he's better as a Mike. I agree with you. I think Hitchens is probably better as a Mike, and DOD's the better Will. The problem with Reggie plays downhill well. He can play short zones, and you saw him make a couple of interceptions late in the season because he can do the short zone thing pretty well. And I'm talking like 8 to 10 yards deep, where he starts maybe lines up 6 or 7 yards deep. So he's talking about 5, moving backward 5 at the most. Problem with the Sam backer, he's got to turn and run with tight ends quite a bit, especially if they're playing the under. But even if they're not, he'll be off the line of scrimmage, but he's still got to play with tight ends and running backs. That's, I think, where Reggie's challenged. That's why I think his only fit really is at middle linebacker so that he can play downhill all the time. And I think he can do a good job in that situation. If not, then they're probably going to have to switch that up, let DOD play Will and move Hitch to the middle. And I think they got Damian Wilson for a reason to play that Sam because he's natural at it. He's got experience at it, and they feel he's an ascending player, even though I don't think he's spectacular. If he continues to improve, I think they'll be in good shape. Good question. Larry Heimer, Justin. Oh yeah, just hit the chest box thing at the bottom. That'll take care of it, Justin. Next question. Brashad Breeland got signed to the Chiefs. Is it going to be a big impact, or is he just filling that position? It's a good question. It could be both. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. I think that he's ascending like he was. The Chiefs did it right to begin with. I'll say that. The Chiefs did it right last season. Remember, he was in camp for like a day and a half. Like, they took him out to practice and everything. He was in meeting rooms. So, like, they were pretty sold on what he can do, and that says a lot. They didn't work out the contract. The Chiefs were worried about his injury, and he wanted a multi-year deal, and so it didn't happen. And he sat out a lot of the season, finally signed in Green Bay, and he played well once he was healthy. Well, okay, good. But the Chiefs didn't spend up front a multi-year deal for a guy that was hurt. So that was a good call. And I think that's got them in a situation where they can almost hit the reset button to a year ago. A guy that can play press man pretty well. He's got length. He's got an attitude. He played more zone in Green Bay and did pretty good. Not great, but good. He doesn't give up a huge catch percentage, and that's a big thing for me. I want corners that play the ball and stop passes. PBUs. It doesn't have to be interceptions for me. It's got to be PBUs, and you got to play sound defense. That's what I'm looking for. And I think that's probably what Spags is looking for too. So he could really excel in the Spags defense, or he could just be okay. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's a good start. And once we get into camp and get an idea how they're going to be aligned, I think we'll have a better idea. Make sure you ask me that when we get to camp too. Okay, next one. Do you think we trade up for Montez Sweat? I think he's a good option, but I think if you're going up more than 10 slots, I think you got to get somebody else. He's a little bit light and he's a little bit stiff. He's not as bendy as his 40 time would make you think. And his 10 split is only on par. It's not, he was excellent at the 40. He was not overly excellent at the 10 or the 3 cone. So he's more, back in line with rushers you've had in the past. So a couple of moves up, sure. Give up a third or a fourth. I could live with that. Giving up a second to go get Sweat, I don't think so. Now, if Allen falls into the teens, I could give up a second for that because he is such a combination of speed rush and he can play defense. Play pass. But he doesn't play the run well. It's like I said earlier, it's another like D4 kind of situation. So maybe I wouldn't give up that much now that I think about it. Fair enough. Okay. Oval Cow. Do you think what do you think about taking a shot at David Long, corner Michigan, I believe? I've done his athleticism and he's solid. He's not excellent, but he's solid. I haven't done his film. I'd have to take a look at it before that, especially moving up. But if he's there in the second round and the Chiefs have a good grade on his film, and I'll know by then I'm okay with it. I think a second round corner is probably where the biggest value is at corner, because I think there's really only one impact corner in the first round. I mean, in the draft, in the first round, and it's Byron Murphy. I think everybody else has severe question marks, including Greedy Williams. So there's a lot of those second tier guys that I think should be in the second round, and he's probably one of them. And if he's there when they pick, I'm fine with it. I think they need fresh young blood that can play aggressive and that can run. What do I think about Colby Chastain? What do I think about Gronk's retirement? Good for him. Good for everyone. I think he was looking at maybe getting himself significantly hurt. He's been banged up a lot of his career, and good for him. I think he's going to get a job in movies somewhere. Sorry, guys. Had to get a sip in. Okay. Rock and Rodeo. If Murray was an option at CB, he would have been there last year. Yeah, I agree with that. Mississippi Grind. I think the defense is going to be better. I don't think it's there yet. Ian, Darrell Williams has shown some flashes. Should he be the RB behind Williams? I like him, yes. I want to see him get the ball over Hyde, at least to start the season, because I feel like he was underutilized, and I think he's got a lot to offer. If Hyde starts, is ahead of him on the depth chart, I'm not going to cry. Hyde's injury prone as well. So I think Darrell's going to get his shot. Oh, I missed somebody. Somebody had a question and I lost it. I'm sorry about that, you guys. Jimmy Miller, what happens if you lose Hill? Oh, no, I already answered that. Right. Darrell, yes, this is live. What's your second late round pick value as other earlier second round picks? Yeah, it's 61 and 63, so they're right about the same. You could package them if you need to move up a little bit. If you want to get back into the top half of the second, you could probably do that too. It all depends on who's there. What do you think about the 10 sack guy other than Chris Jones on the team currently? I think Breland Speaks has a better shot in this defense than he did in the last defense, and I won't rule him out as a 10 sack guy. I think especially if they can get pressure, because Spags is going to blitz some, if they can pressure the A gaps with a linebacker and keep him from getting doubled all the time, especially because if they don't double Speaks, they'll double Jones. That'll help too. I think Breland Speaks can make some hay. I think he could be in for a big jump from year 1 to year 2. You see that a lot in the league. And I really think the jury's out on him yet. I'm not ready to give up on him. I think he still has a lot to offer. We'll see. Next. Carlos just got on. Not sure if you answered this. Giving terrorists, do you think we should move up and get it? I don't think we should move up to get a wide receiver. I think the Chiefs should take a wide receiver on day 2 somewhere, whether it's at the picks they have or if they move around, which I kind of expect them to do. Do you see any more free agent moves before the draft? Maybe a trade if somebody else came up. Gary Steven, what do you think of trade Boston? I talked about trade back at the end. You can just like move your scroll bar back or rewatch it when it starts again. I think trade could help. Do you think? Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Tyreek anymore. I covered that a couple of times, you guys. Jeremy Jones, is Spags aggressive with his linebackers typically? Tired of the way Sutton used linebackers. I agree with you. And yeah, he will blitz them. He'll blitz them and the strong safety quite a bit, and he'll bring corner blitzes as well. From the film that I watched, that's pretty prevalent. So, Trey, yep. The middle linebacker in the new defense is going to be important because now you only have one of them. Think of it this way: you have the guards in there, the middle linebacker. He's got to cover tackle to tackle, or really tight end to tight end, because the Will and the Sam have to go to the edges. So when you had 2 guys in between the tight ends, now you have one. He's got to be able to move a little bit laterally, but he's got to be able to line up in the middle 6 to 7 yards deep and see tackle to tackle and attack the gap. So I still think that that's something Reggie can do. Isaiah, I don't have a regular season prediction yet. I got to see what they do first. How do you feel about Baker at 29 or Rapp or Thornhill in the second? I'm cooling on DeAndre Baker, even though he's a Georgia guy, and I generally like what they do. Attitude, speed. I've heard a couple of bad things about interviews, both at the pro day and at the combine. So I'm thinking he's like more of a 40s pick, not a 20s. I think Rapp's going to go before the Chiefs pick in the second. He's likely a 30s or 40s guy too. So, depending on where they go, I think they can all help. It just depends whether they get value or not. Cool Mars, thanks for the donation as always. I appreciate that. You are one of the regulars, and you keep this thing going, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Sam Mansker, I do see your question. I don't see what it is. I just see your question that says, can you see my question? Ask it again. Hit 2 question marks at the beginning of it. It helps me pick them out of the stream. Mississippi Grind, are you a diehard fan? I'm not. I pull for the Chiefs. I went to college at KU, but I'm a Navy brat. I've lived all over the country. And honestly, the more I become an analyst, the less that I'm a fan. I pull for organizations, and I'm really into how GMs go about building organizations. And so I'm really intrigued with Veach. But Chiefs are my favorite team, followed by the Bears and the Seahawks. So, yeah, you can call me a fan. Next question. Do you think there could be a 10+? Oh, I answered that. Yep. Sorry, Ivory. I didn't call you out for it, but I believe that. Matt Blue. Oh, that's not a question. Well, thank you, though. I'd love to work for the Chiefs. Like I said, they're the organization that's at the top of my list, and I'm really interested in building teams. So, I'm doing what I do with Rogue Analytics to help teams build rosters. Hopefully someday the Chiefs would like to use it. Maybe that'll happen. Who knows? But I appreciate the comment. If Brett Veach, if you're watching, call me up. I'll take a job or consultancy. Maybe that's easier. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Lance Vigil, do we draft a tight end? I think they do. There's so many that I think can play in this offense. I think they will go grab one. Do you think the Traps draft an RB at all? I don't know. Between Hyde and Darrell, maybe late day 3, 6th, 7th round. They do have 2 6s. But I think you could see a UDFA. You got 3 right now. So I don't know that no more than a 4th is going to make the roster. And I just don't know if they're going to invest a draft pick in that. So I would tend to doubt it. What do you think about Paul Sanchez? What do you think about maybe signing Sue? Not a big Sue fan, but he could be that other interior guy in the nickel that can really get something done. I don't care for his play. I still feel like he's kind of dirty, but you know, he'll get the job done. I think he'll be motivated, but I hear that he wants to go to the coast, so I really don't think that's in the cards. Okay, Burt Roas, good question. Best fit for edge. Who would you pick? Ferrell, Winovich, Amenahue, Bonnegue, or Collier? Both the TCU guys. Clelin Ferrell, easily the best of that group. Plays a base end, plays a power end like they seem to be wanting. But I will say this. I still feel like speed rush is important, especially on 3rd and long. So I think you want to have a speed rusher on the roster, maybe not as a starter. So you don't want to spend a first-round pick on it. So if you went Bonnegue in the 3rd or Winovich, I don't think Winovich will last to the 3rd. He might even be a borderline first-round pick. But somebody in the 3rd round that can do that. Like Collier or Bonnegue or Amenahue, I'm okay with that. Although Amenahue is more of a power guy too. He's not a speed guy. I think Bonnegue is really the guy that's got the most upside. His athletic matrix, I don't have it finalized yet, but he looks like he's going to be at the top of the list. So a guy to get that kind of athleticism in the 3rd round, I think would be a pretty quality pick. I hate alignment at 29. Can we get alignment in the 2nd and 3rd? Yes. Guy like McCoy should be there in the 2nd for sure. More of a power center, but somebody that can do it. The Chiefs have like 8 guards on this roster, so I don't think they're looking for a guard. They might be looking for a swing tackle too, and if it goes into the day 3 and they haven't picked an alignment, it might be a swing tackle type. Cool Mars, any rumor to getting DeAndre Baker in the 29th? I have no idea, and neither do they. The only rumor is whether the Chiefs like him or not, and I haven't heard that specifically. So we'll see. If we hear about him making a visit, that might be an indication that they're a little more interested than I think they are right now. Damien. No, Craig's answering the question. Never mind. Good job, Craig Murphy. Ivory. If Watkins is 100% all season, do you think he's a 1K receiver? With Tyreek, probably not, but he's an 800 or 900 yard receiver if he's healthy all season. 5,000 yards spread 3.5 ways, probably. Maybe he is. We'll find out. Who's next? Ovocal, would you rather trade up for Ferrell or draft Gardner Johnson at 29? Gardner Johnson, man, he's interesting. I don't know that I trust him at free, but that kind of robber type can slide up to nickel. Nickel might be his best role, actually. I think that's where he made the most plays, and I can't see spending a first-round pick on a nickel corner. So if you're going to spend a first-round pick, he's got to be an outside guy that can start and shut down half the field as far as I'm concerned, or else I'd trade out of the pick. What do you think about Dre Greenlaw? I haven't watched his film yet, but, it depends on the investment, as always. Late day 2, early day 3, maybe? They don't have a 4th pick, though. A 4th round pick, I mean. That could be troublesome. Cool Mars, do you have any value on playing together the 2X Cowboys? Yes, you do. Jalen Smith was very congratulatory when Damian Wilson signed with the Chiefs. So I think you can see that there's a camaraderie amongst the former Dallas Cowboys in their linebacker group, and I think that will play into it, and I think that will help. So, it's kind of like building upon each other and being able to know where the other guy's going to be. But again, that makes me think it should be in the middle if they're going to play off that symmetry because, the Sam and the Will are on the opposite sides of the field all the time. So maybe that won't work that well. Kevin Pippin. No, you asked that question. Good job, Kevin. Ed Griffin. Well, Byron Pinkle will be a major new asset. Garrett Dieter. I think they're both going to be in the running for that 5th receiver kind of thing. I just don't know enough about Pringle. He looked good at the end of preseason, but he hasn't taken a regular season snap, so we just don't know. When he gets to the regular season, hopefully he makes it out of the preseason healthy. We'll have a much better idea then. Any injury updates with Armani Watts? No, Cool Mars. It is silent on Armani. I haven't heard a single thing about him all off season. I would expect that he's progressing, but I can't promise it. Darcel Reed, should the Chiefs trade 2020 first round pick For Devin White, oh, I don't know, man. White's good. I like the way he plays. Dramatically better than Bush, in my opinion, in terms of I like the way White plays. But you don't know where that pick's going to be. I don't know. For an inside linebacker, that's a heavy cost. So I'm probably going to say no, but I do like the player. He's great. Kumar's Jared Cook is signing elsewhere. I can't remember where it is, but it's all but a done deal from what I understand. Bert Rojas, rumor Chiefs interested in Jordy Nelson. Yeah, I heard they were going to bring him in and have a talk. I just don't know how much he's got left in the tank. If he's going to play that inside slot role, I think it could work, but I want somebody that can really break ankles in there, and Jordy ain't it. What am I drinking? Sam Mansker, Luna from Elliptic to Kolsch. Paul Sanchez, you front load a contract for Sue. If you bring in Sue, you definitely front load it. Just like the Rams, I don't think you want him for more than a season or two. Andy Isabella. I think Andy Isabella is an interesting guy. I think opinions vary widely from both media draft analysts that I've heard to and people that have connections in the league. So I think he's probably a third round guy, but it just takes one team to grab him. So I just can't tell you. I don't think first round talk's kind of ridiculous to me. I can't see that happening, but anywhere on day 2, I won't be surprised. Any shot at Quinnen Williams from Alabama? David Wilson, that is a very good question. And I don't think so. Man, they would have to give up a ton. I think they'd have to get in the top 6 picks to get Quinnen Williams. I like the player. I like his personality from what I've seen on TV. Seems like a jovial guy. Seems like he'd kind of groove with Chris Jones really well. I could be wrong there, but I don't know. That's the impression that I get right off the bat. So I'll tell you another guy. In fact, I gotta make sure I say his name right. Let me look over here for a second. The other guy that I am pretty intrigued by is, yes, it's Christian Wilkins from Clemson. I think he could be the number 2 guy. I think he's a guy that should be on Chiefs' radar. I think he might even be available for them. I don't know off the top of my head, but I like the way that he plays. I was watching film on Clelin Ferrell, and he popped a lot. So that's another guy that I think could really help the Chiefs. Nathan Altick, where do you see Penny Hart going? I think he's a day 3 guy. I think he's really interesting, but I think people are going to be a little wary. But I mean, honestly, there's ties to Albert Wilson. He played at the same school. Like there's something there. And I like the way that he moves. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. 5th, 4th at best, I think. Small. And I think there's some injury concern there. I don't think he's quite as thin as that, but he's pretty small. So I don't expect him on the first or second day, but somebody will pick him. I think he'll get drafted. Ian, good question. What do you think of Derek Nottie? I think Derek Nottie was the best pick they made for season 1 of the draft class. I think Derek Nottie showed you more gap penetration than you expected, and I think he was just as good against the run as he was advertised. I think that's a great pickup for him. I expect him to start next to Chris Jones unless they do something crazy and get a Quinnen Williams or a Wilkins. And if they do, that's okay because they're moving towards this front where the edge rushers, even the fastest edge rushers like D Ford, couldn't get to Tom Brady. So you got to get in those A gaps. You need penetrating interior linemen if you want to get pressure on quarterbacks these days. And I'm perfectly okay with however they go about it. But I do think that Nottie can do more than we thought he could at first. Make sure I'm trying to hit all these questions, you guys. Lee, aloha. How are you? Mahalo, my friend. I hope you guys are having I heard there was a big storm a couple days ago. My buddy was out there, had to come in real quick. Kiteboarder. Last time Chiefs picked a Buckus Award winner linebacker, it was Derek Thomas. You're absolutely right. They don't grow on trees. Yeah, Isabella would be in the slot, Stuart. Stephen Bennett, what do you think of TK in the second round? TK. Not sure exactly what you're talking about. Are you thinking DK Metcalf? I think somebody's going to take him in the first, but I don't think he deserves to go there. I don't think he's Megatron. I think he's closer to Chris Conley than he is to Megatron, but that's me. He does not move laterally for nothing. I've seen him drop a few balls in some of the games that I've watched, and as fast as he in a straight line, I don't think that really turns the tide when you have Tyreek Hill on the other side. Good question, though. Craig Murphy, are you comfortable with the running backs? I am. I think they'll add one more guy, probably a UDFA. What do you think about moving up for Rock Ya-Sin? I don't think you have to. I think Rock Ya-Sin I don't think he's a first-round player. I see a lot of people saying that now. I think he goes in the 40s or 50s. I think if the Chiefs really want him, they could take a chance at 29, but I think more likely they've either moved up or if they move back into the late 30s, I think they could still get Rock Ya-Sin. So keep an eye out for that. Colby Chastain, is Sherman the tight end too? He could be. Old Sherm can do just about everything, and they brought him back. And I know you guys know I'm partial to Anthony Sherman, but I expected him to be back. I expected to be a little sooner than this, but he did resign. So Sherm will be back in the fold. Darcel, I don't think, I don't know. Well, you may be right. Is the draft on now? No. The draft is April 26th, I think it starts. Nito, that's when it'll be on. Samuel Ellison, what do you think of Murphy's draft stock? Could they get him at 20? I think it's going to be a stretch. I think he goes in the 20s. I think he's the best corner, but I don't think the corner group in general is that good. I think the interior linemen and the tight ends are going to push him down some. And I think teams are going to take the quarterbacks. I think that's going to push him down some. He could be there, but I don't think so. They might have to go up, but I think they could move up less than 10 slots and probably get him. So, I mean, that's what I'd be thinking. Bert Rojas, good point. If you've gotten him in the last couple of drafts, that's cool. It depends where you do them, because remember, these aren't teams setting up these mock drafts. These are the analysts' rankings that set up those mock drafts. They do not reflect the team's rankings very often. So just take that with a grain of salt. Who's next? Is Rashawn Gary drops all the way to 29? Would you take him, Ivory Bridgewater? Rashawn Gary scares me. For a guy that is that athletic in testing but didn't show it on the field, I don't know. I don't think that you can rely on him. I think I would probably go elsewhere. Are they putting too much faith in the defensive coaching staff? Ulysses Bestie. Maybe. But they had talent last year and it didn't work out. So I think it's a fair place to put some pressure on. I can't say if it's too much or not. We're going to have to see what happens. Brian Gooch, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Cap space left. Would you or would Veach do a Clowney Peterson deal with cap space? Yeah, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm not so into Clowney, just not a player that I ever liked. I know Seth thinks he played better than Justin Houston, but I would take Houston in a heartbeat over Clowney. So, but Peterson, yeah, in a heartbeat. He's a guy that is one of the true shutdown corners left in this league. What position is nobody talking about? The Chiefs could possibly be looking to pick someone up. They're definitely going wide receiver eventually. I think the interior line, everybody kind of feels like it's squared away, but like I was talking about Wilkins before, I think interior D line could be somewhere they end up that maybe not everybody's expecting. Do you think 44 will play more next year, Vincent? Good question. Yes, I think he definitely will. I hope that he ends up as the will, 44 being Dorian O'Daniel. Do you follow the NBA? Nope. I'm a football guy. I don't watch baseball. I watch college basketball because I went to KU. It's, kind of a law. But other than that, I am an NFL football guy. I watch some college ball. But yeah, no. Baseball, basketball, pros? No. I do not play Madden. When I play video games, I play space shoot 'em ups. I play Halo. I play Halo Wars. That's about it. Haven't gotten into Fortnite. Quite honestly, I'm old. I ain't got enough time. I got small kids and I got all this to do. So haven't played a video game in over a year. So sorry. Mike Hall, do you think the Chiefs draft a wide receiver in the first or second? It all depends on the board. I don't think that they're going to like the talent for the first, but a second could definitely be a possibility. Ian again, would you re-sign Barry to 1 year low money deal if he goes unsigned? I think that bridge is burned. I would bring him back. Personally, I have no problem with that. I don't think the team would, and I don't think he wants to come back. Same thing with Justin Houston, although I don't know what's going on with Justin Houston right now. Let's see here. Maybe Forholt, Rev Dog, good question. I haven't watched any of his film, but I have had two people now tell me, two analysts tell me that he's somebody that I should watch, especially for like a early day 3 guy. I'll take a look. Jared side with New Orleans. That's who it was. Thanks, Cole Keeler. Who's the best edge in the draft? Whew. As much as I hate to say it, I think it's Bosa. He's a slow burn, just like his brother. He gets there and he's efficient. But he's not explosive. He's not Von Miller, but he and his brother get it done. I think Nick's a little more out there. I think he's maybe a little quicker, but not quite as strong. I don't know. I got to look at the numbers again, but I think that's really what it is. And I think everybody else is kind of a question mark. I think Allen's the next best pass rusher. I don't think he's the next best edge, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Josh Allen can rush the passer from the outside, speed around the edge. Yes. Can he chop and come back inside? I've seen him do it once or twice. Now I've only watched like 4 games, but didn't come away impressed with his interior game, his counter game. He plays the pass very well. He reminds me of D Ford, but he can play pass coverage. So somewhere between D Ford and Anthony Barr is what Josh Allen looks like to me, but he can rush the passer. And the guy that I just started doing his film last night, and I haven't watched a lot of it yet, is Burns. He's growing on me, but again, he's a smaller outside backer type rather than a 4-3 DN. So I don't know if he's even somebody the Chiefs could look at. Brian Gooch, thanks for the donation again. Dang. Okay. Draft capital for Clowney and Peterson. I think it's a 1+. 2 2s I would do in a heartbeat. I don't think that'll get it done for the Cardinals. Next question. How much space do we have for next year? Right now, we're sitting at about $22 million for the Chiefs. They'll get another 9 back after June 1st with the Berry cut. Jay Cook to the Saints. Yep. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys filling me in. For some reason, I had blocked out it was the Saints. Renuk, I answered that question. Bert Rojas, very good question. DK Metcalf had a major neck injury in college. He was cleared by the doctors at the combine, but yeah, that's a significant question mark, and I think you're right to bring that up. I don't like his play on the field as much as everyone else, so it's really not that big of an issue to me. I think there's guys that you can get that aren't as fast straight line, but maybe better receivers and more able to get open, because I don't think DK Metcalf can cut to save his life. Deebo Samuel with the 2nd pick. There's a lot of rumors about Deebo and his work ethic, and I think the Chiefs are going to try to steer away from that kind of thing. He's there in the 3rd, maybe, but I like Deebo. I like the way he runs routes. I like his attitude on the field. I just don't know what it's like off the field, and I've never seen an in-depth interview with him, so I really can't say. Okay, Sam Ansker, do you think Matthew's the best safety they could have gotten due to his versatility? No, I think Earl Thomas was the best safety they could have gotten, and I think they almost did. That's the sad part. I am really, really disappointed to not see Earl Thomas and Tyrann Mathieu play together. I think that would have been the best tandem in the league, maybe the best tandem in the last 5 or 10 years. And I think that would have been really, really epic to defend the pass as much as the Chiefs offense can throw the pass. TW, I talked about Devin White a bunch earlier. Just hit rewind and scoot back. It's there. Do they need a running back? No, maybe late round addition. Do they keep Sorensen? Now that was great. Do we keep Sorensen and look for a safety in free agency or the draft? Definitely in the draft. And I think they are going to keep Sorensen because he can blitz. That's the best thing that he does, in my opinion. And I think Spags is really going to like that. He wants to send safeties on blitzes. So I think he's his kind of guy. Sean Meacham, I saw you say something, bud, but I missed it. I'm sorry. In Miller Shields, thanks for your donation. Appreciate it. Who do you think will be the other starting safety? I don't think he's on the roster yet. I think it'll be a draft pick or another free agent signing, low end. Sean, you're right. Thank you. I forgot about Indianapolis. Old Ballard came through and signed Justin Houston. So good for him. Good for both of them. Justin Houston was my guy that I followed from before he was even a Chief. In fact, I called for the Chiefs to draft him that year. So yeah, I'm glad to see him go someplace he's appreciated, and that I still feel he can play very, very well. Sean Mitchum. I always say Meacham. Sorry, Sean. Folks, say hi to Sean. The man knows what he's doing. And maybe we'll run into each other at camp again, bud. Next year, a second and third for Abrams, Jonathan Abrams. No. You're talking about trading up to get Abrams? No, I wouldn't do that. He's a strong safety. He's not a coverage guy. No, I wouldn't give up anything to go get Abrams. Talked about Devin White. TW, really, I did talk about him extensively before. Ian, that was a good question. That one. Okay. Ian Connis. Do you think K-Pass has a role next season? If so, what is it? I think he's the backup, and I think he's a situational pass rusher, and I think he gets to play the wide 9 that Spagnuolo uses sometimes, and that's exactly what he did in college. And I think it's probably his best chance, as well as Breland speaks. It's his best chance, I think, to move forward. And I think that would be it. So I think he may be able to get something done. We'll see if he can click with the new staff, and that's really going to be the determiner. I feel like he got benched because of Sutton, not necessarily for any particular reason other than I just don't think he was allowed to do what he does well. But good question. Yep, thank you guys for updating me on Justin. TW, thank you for your donation. I talked about White quite a bit, but I will tell you this. He's an incredible linebacker. I love his game. I don't think that they would give up a first and a second to go get him, which I think is what it will take. I think he goes in the top 10. And I think he's better than Deion Jones, and he's in that realm of being able to do a little bit of everything in what this league wants. I appreciate your donation. Thank you for doing it. And really, I'm totally with you. If it was sitting there, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Orlando Winfrey. What do you think of the secondary playing, getting 1-year deals, and Chiefs not making more moves? I think they're taking chances in free agency because they have to, and trying to find guys in the draft. So they're buying time with the 1-year contracts. Bert Rojas, interior defensive line still available. Covington, Marsh, Sue, Wilkerson. Sue's probably the best of them. I don't know that I'd spend money on any of them, though. Darsal Reed, thank you. I appreciate that comment. Adam Daughtry, did you talk about Alan Bailey? I had a phone call. No, I didn't talk about Alan Bailey. He's supposedly still talking with the Patriots, and they haven't signed him yet. And if he's willing to take a rather drastic pay cut, I would have him back. I thought he played pretty well. And I think he could play in the base for Spags. So we'll see. Bert, thank you. Yep, you guys are absolutely right. Ray Booth, are we sure that Brett Veach is the right guy? Do you trust him? I think he's young. I think he's going to make a mistake here or two, but I think he's proven that he's intense and he is taking his job seriously. He's a good scout. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. So yeah, I think he's got plenty of rope. I'm not even close to trying to think about moving on from Brett Veach. And I'll say this too. I think he's got more upside than any other GM in the league, even the younger ones, even Bean. I think Brett Veach could be a guy that creates championships here with Andy Reid, but after him too. So that said, Marcus Eddington. I do think Armani's a potential starter. I just don't know if he's there, and I don't know if he's healthy. Cool Mars, they could sign Eric Berry again. I don't think they will. I don't think there's mutual interest there. Brian Gooch, do you think the Chiefs are done with free agents and save cap space for Mahomes' super deal, or does something else close to during the draft? I think it's a toss-up. If the right guy comes along, I don't think they think Trey Boston can play for them. I don't know why. I still feel like he's better than what they have. It might be post-draft. If they don't get a free safety type and they really want to play Matthew where he's played before, I think Matthew could play free, but I think he's better up closer to line of scrimmage in that robber spot. Maybe they could go get another one. And maybe Trey Boston's still out there. You never know. Let's see. Sam Mansker, what do you see KC doing for a guy like Jamie Collins? I don't think so. I don't think Jamie Collins gets the needle moving enough for them to go make moves and give up draft capital to do it. I think they're finally in a spot where they're forward on the draft. They have multiple picks in the first 2 days, more than just their 3 allotments. So I feel like they feel they're getting back to where they want to be, and I don't think they're going to give that up. Why didn't Houston take a pay cut? Duncan, I have no idea. I don't know personally. What do you for wide receiver, do you think the Chiefs are set? I think they have a lot of talent. I think they probably add somebody still, though. That was Josh. Sam Mansker, that's fair. Matthew Watts could work. I just don't know about Watts. I just don't know. Michael Whaley, what do you think about Miles Sanders on day 2? I like Miles Sanders. I think he's a good back. I don't want to spend a day 2 pick on a running back. Just don't want to do it. And I think he probably will go somewhere in that range. So I don't think he'll be available when I would pick him, which would be like the 6th round. Talked about passing note, Ian. Check that out. Do you think Dorian O'Danny can play free safety? No, I don't. That's not his thing. When he was in college, he played some nickel in that kind of role. I can't remember his name, but number 11 plays it now for Clemson. So if you watch Clemson from 2018, number 11's playing his slot. And it's kind of between a slot corner and a linebacker. It's that in between. I don't think he's a free safety type. Renard, good night. Holy cow. Wow, you guys were at an hour already. All right, we'll wrap this up. I didn't mean to go this long. I'm sorry I kept you. Offensive line, yeah, but do they need to require another run stuffer like Okafor? No, I think they're better against the run right now today than they were last year. Between Noddy, Williams, Jones, Okafor, Speaks, I think they're better against the run. Sean, I will see you. I'm glad to hear it. Corner edge rusher in the first round. Yeah, I think that's the focus. But I think they will stick to their board. If they have a lineman, either side of the ball lineman or wide receiver that they have higher on their board, they will take him. Collins is now a free agent. Now Cleveland released him. Oh, Jamie Collins. Yeah, again, I just don't think he moves the needle very much. I think he'd want to get paid. No, there's no word on Basil. There's no word on Byron Pringle. We'll see what happens in OTAs. Dylan Hale, do you think the offense was good enough to spread it out? If you think one more receiver to take short passes and you will use the spread more. Yeah, I think they need a pivot guy. I think they need a Cole Beasley, Julian Edelman type guy. So there are a number of them in this draft. I think they'll get one. George, how are you? First time commenter. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, hey, awesome. Videos and podcasts, man, you're a glutton for punishment, but thank you. I appreciate it. Joshua, do you think that they stand pat on the corners and safeties or sign a guy like Boston? I don't know if they sign somebody, but they're definitely going after them in the draft. They have to get more depth. They're not done yet. I don't think you want to roll in with Ward and Breland as your top 2 corners with Fuller. Fuller's easily the best. I think you need more. Okay, I don't know what that means, but all right, man. Carliners, predictions on the number of picks the Chiefs usually use. I think they'll actually give some up. I think they probably make 6 or 7 selections. I think they have 8 picks now. So they'll lose 1 pick in a trade, I think. That's what I would expect. Yeah, there are a lot of changes, Oscar. You're absolutely right. It will be cool to see how it works out. Is there an O-line good, or do they need another part? Rumor is they want a safety. Go back and watch the beginning of the video. I talked about that. I think they might go get one. I don't know. They still have the rights, Andre. They still have the rights to DeAnthony Thomas. I don't think he's going to be back, though. Between the injury and the arrest, I just don't know. But Andy loves the guy, so you can never rule it out. So, all right. Oh, Reynard, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Cool Mars, peace out to you. Guys, cheers. I appreciate all the time. For the ladies that were here, I saw several of you. Thanks for hanging out. I'll have another video or two this week, and I'll be back next Monday night for more questions. So let me know what you think, and appreciate you spreading the word. We're going to have a great offseason. I will talk to you all later. Have a good night.